Um, Most of you know me. I'm a church member here. I was a leadership in the church for a while, for about 2.5 years. My name's Heidi Gunderson, and I was a foster child. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that experience today. You've seen lots of presentations and videos in the last couple of weeks, but I'm really hoping that today's presentation will bring everything home for you and make it real for you. When people think of foster child, they think of one of two things. They think of a person who's either been abused or has lost his or her parents, but then is living in a loving home now because they were taken away from their not so loving home, or they think of a juvenile delinquent. And I hope after today you'll realize that neither one of those is the norm. Those who are taken out of the home have been abused, yes, but a lot of times they're not put in a loving home simply because there isn't one available. And they go into what we call, and what they talked about were placements. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those placements today. They'd be like group homes, hospitals, shelters, a foster home that doesn't really fit the child. That's another placement they would be taken away from. I was in 12 different placements between the ages of 12 and 15, my middle school years. Probably the hardest years of a youth's life. They included 2 hospitals, 1 shelter, many group homes, a foster home that didn't fit, and then what we call a level 5 facility. If you think of juvenile detention as a level 6, a level 5 is right below that, and I was placed there simply because there was nowhere else available, nowhere else had a bed. It was extremely restrictive. A lot of these placements are really extremely restrictive. And I was in this level 5 for 2 months, like I said, simply because there was no other bed available. Conditions were different in these placements that I mentioned. Youth have to earn good behavior points in order to get anything, including like a Dr. Pepper or even chapstick. I had to earn good behavior points to get chapstick for my lips in one of those placements. Usually there's other youth in the facility that are pretty angry towards the situation they've come from. A lot of them talked about being angry. It's pretty normal, of course. And so they will snap or threaten harm even sometimes just because they're afraid and angry, like I was. Eventually, to survive, I, like the others, had to develop quite a tough skin. And therefore I wasn't very pleasant myself. One of the youth had told me that people need to know what a wolfhound these places are, and they are. I mean, you become a wolf in order to survive. There's no going outside, no horseplay, no food requests or food choices. You don't get to decide what you're going to have for dinner. No making friends, no seeing friends outside of the facility, and there's no seeing your parents. All you have with you is the belongings you took when being removed from the home. Usually they carry it in a black trash bag because it's all there's time to grab before you leave. I had 2 outfits. That's it. That's all I took from my home. I did acquire more over time, but of course what I had wasn't what most children are used to. When youth are abused and neglected, you'd think that they have a lot of anger for their parents, which I guess they do, or that they have hatred, and just the opposite is true. I mean, they're your parents, right? How could you not love them no matter what? So think of the anger and confusion that must cause for these youth, right? That mistreatment by their parents must cause. Think about how a youth would miss home, even though being away is the best course of action. I did miss home. I did. It took about 6 months to realize just how abnormal my home situation really was. I knew not everybody, of course, lived like I did, but I didn't realize just how weird my situation was till I was taken away. It was becoming quite clear, though, even though I knew all of that, that I needed to be away. I developed what I like to call an incarceration mentality, and I don't want to minimize anybody who's been incarcerated. I don't want to minimize that, but these placements kind of feel a little bit like incarceration. So when we're in them, we develop what we call an incarceration mentality, and I'm going to explain what that is. It's where you live every minute, every day, just to survive. You don't look ahead to plan your future. You don't know if you'll have deodorant to wear or toothpaste to brush your teeth with, or which people that are currently in your life are going to be there for the next minute or the next day. You can't attach to anybody. Life just changes so frequently that you can't make a plan of any kind. In one of the placements, I had my toothbrush stolen and had to borrow someone's toothpaste in the bathroom at the school I was attending. I once had my only pair of jeans stolen, and the girl wouldn't give them back. She was going on a home visit and took them with her. So I ran out of deodorant at one of the placements I was at, and they couldn't get me any more for a week. It was summertime. Once a girl used my razor since she hadn't had one for quite some time, and it was summer, and so therefore I couldn't use it either because it wouldn't work anymore. I once earned a week's worth of extra chores and was deducted 100 behavior points for eating just a little bit of cookie dough out of the fridge. It looked really good. It's cookie dough, so I couldn't resist it. So basically, we learn how to survive by being ready to stand up for ourselves at any time. We expect no luxuries. We don't know how long we'll be in each current situation. And we move, or at least I moved every 2 to 3 months on average. So basically, you give up hope of ever finding a constant home. This is what we call incarceration mentality. So every moment's about survival and just making it to the next hour. You learn how to depend on nobody but God and yourself. I changed placements frequently, like I said, except for the last one, which was 5 months. I was in there for 5 months. So I began to worry at that time, even though it was a steady placement, that I would be there until my 18th birthday, which was a scary thought because all I wanted was a permanent home really badly. So right about then, though, a foster family took me in, and this is the type of family I think that most people envision youth go to. It was a really nice, loving home. They had a lot of chores, which was fine, though, because I needed a structured, loving, normally dysfunctional family like we're all used to, right? I could be loved and accepted and encouraged to grow. What was impossible for the staff in the group homes was possible with this family because I was their foster child. I felt finally like I had a permanent home. Because I was able to talk to them and refer to them as parents and be comfortable with that new environment, I was able to look into the future finally. I was able to think about what I wanted to do with my life. I'm hurrying, Eric, I promise. I didn't have to live hour to hour and day to day, and I could relax with them and love them, and they loved me back. So at that point also, I was able to see some childhood friends again. I was able to make new friends and even invite them over, something that would never have been able to do in the group homes. I was able to play in the school orchestra and take private lessons, be a distance runner on the track team. And I was able to slowly bring my grades up and therefore look forward to college, only because I had support. They encouraged my accomplishments. They worked through normal teenage drama with me, and they disciplined my mistakes, probably the most important because there were a lot of mistakes. And I still get to go home for holidays and birthdays. Most youth are not so lucky. After having a D average because I missed most of my 9th grade year, I graduated with an A- average from high school. Most are not so lucky. My freshman year of college, I was asked by the Orphan Foundation of America to speak to our state congressman in Washington about the state of the foster care system. I was one of the 12 most successful foster children in the nation that year. 12. Only because I was going to college. Most don't have the opportunity. I was a leader at my university where I graduated with honors and was a member of the Dean's List and 2 National Honor Societies. Most are not so blessed. I secured a teaching position right after graduation. Many people, let alone foster children, are not so blessed. I married a wonderful man, and I have 2 wonderful, beautiful children. Sorry. This, for former foster children, is nearly unheard of. I've been an effective, successful teacher, and I'm now going back for my master's degree. This is unheard of. My goal now is to help others age out of the foster care system successfully and gracefully, because that is nearly unheard of, if you remember Jassie's statistics. My goal is also to help other foster youth share their stories like they did today, to help break the stigma associated with youth in foster care. We're not delinquents. We're just youth who need a loving, permanent home. We as a church have learned that God calls on us to become beside orphans. Can you be a blessing to a youth like I was? Maybe you feel you don't have what it takes. But the good news is that you don't have to. You don't have to have what it takes. God has that covered for you. Trust in Him. He will lead you through. He will walk alongside you in your journey together, and He will create the miracles like He did for my family. Thanks for listening.